Well, hello there. Welcome to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 143. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody, and we're so happy you're joining with us on the show here tonight.
Yeah, we have Jode, past junior high and high school friend of ours. Haven't seen you in about 6 years. Terry Evans from Oromocto originally, and you're going to tell us about your fascinating journey, 25 years in Japan. And you're also an author. You have 4 books so far, and you're working on others. Terry, thanks very much for being in the studio with us.
Thank you very much, guys, for having me on your studio. Again, I'm very, very impressed by the setup.
Thank you.
You guys should be proud. Wow.
Well,
We are.
Okay, and just to let everyone know that I met the brothers here back in junior high school. We went to Wassus Road Junior High School. I'm going to say a not so happy story to you guys, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Right here, I have a trophy.
That's proof.
This is a trophy, and it says in 1998, when we're at Wassus Road Junior High School, these brothers were doubles partners in badminton, and they were unstoppable.
We were.
We're unstoppable until myself and a friend, Shane Clark, no one probably remembers him, but he was my partner back in the day. He was a tall, skinny guy. And we beat the brothers, and we got this trophy. And can you believe it? That this trophy went from Canada to Japan, back to Canada again. And look at this, the badminton racket.
Still didn't break.
Still there.
Wow.
1988.
Wow.
So we would have been grade 8.
Middle school, Wassus Road Junior High.
Wow, playing them.
Currently, for our younger viewers, Ridgeview.
Yeah, Ridgeview
Middle School.
It's now called Ridgeview.
Yeah.
And then also the school years have changed, because when I used to teach English in Japan, I always said elementary school 1 to 6, junior high school 7 to 9, high school 10 to 12. But it's all changed now, and I don't really understand it, but that's okay. You don't have to.
No,
so the last time we saw each other, Terry, it was at Schulten's in Oromocto. You worked there. It was 2018, and then sort of lost track, friends on Facebook and things like that. But about a month ago or so, you contacted me and said, and you live in the Fredericton area now, but you contacted me and said, hey, I'd love to be on the show. I'm an author, and I have a book. Not only one book, 3 others.
3 books. And Facebook just does a lot, but doesn't do justice to what Terry has to share with us.
Yeah, so let's go right from sort of the beginning of how did you even end up going to Japan? How did that come about?
Okay, well, again, it started in elementary school. I had a fascination with ninjas.
Okay.
Ninjas. I loved ninjas and martial arts. And I'll just make a long story short. I'm actually a black belt in Taekwondo.
Okay.
And a black belt in karate. And when I was in Japan, I learned a lot of street fighting. I learned a lot of different kind of martial arts, just to let you guys know. Wow. Not that I'm a dangerous guy, but I can hold my own, basically. But what me got to go over to Japan is the question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, after I graduated high school, I moved to Victoria, British Columbia.
Okay.
Then I went to school over there as well. And that's when I met the Japanese lady.
Yes.
That's going to change my life forever, because she graduated back in university, and then she moved back to Japan. And then she used to write me almost every day, and this is so strange. I would get like letters, so many letters, and she used to write 6 or 7 page letters, like writing letters. This is before emails and stuff like that. And then I was so much in love with her, and then I was looking for a job back in Victoria. I was changing jobs, and then I saw in the newspaper, and it's very, very small print, a little rectangular print, opportunity in Japan, and a phone number.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, Japan. I was always fascinated with the ninjas. Ninjas come from Japan. So I called the number and set up an interview. And of course, I'm a good guy. I passed the interview with flying colors. And then me and 7 other Canadians ended up moving to Japan. And I was going to stay there just for 1 year. I had a 1-year working holiday visa. You guys remember working holiday visas and stuff.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I went over there on the 1-year visa. And I worked at a hot spring hotel. And that story is also in the book, and I'll show you the book here soon. But I worked 4 months at this hot spring hotel for this contract, for this job opportunity.
Okay.
Once I completed the 4 months, I could continue 1 year in Japan on the visa. So I moved from southern Japan, where I worked at the Hot Spring Hotel, to Hokkaido. That's the most northern island in Japan, and into Sapporo. Maybe you guys heard of Sapporo beer or Sapporo Ichiban noodles and stuff.
Okay.
And basically, yeah. And I just fell in love with the culture. The people are so friendly, so kind.
Well, I want to know, did you meet up with the girl again?
Okay, well, the high school or the university girl, I met up with her in Sapporo, and then I got kind of a bad story to say.
Oh, okay.
I was teaching English at a school, and I met another girl.
Oh, okay.
She was a fabulous lady. She was a lady, not a girl.
Oh,
Okay.
And I ended up breaking up with the first
Oh.
Japanese girlfriend. And then doing a homestay with
That's what they call it.
the student
oh,
in
okay.
that
Okay.
first. And then I eventually married the student, and she quit the school and got free English lessons from this guy here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right. Okay,
there-
but
so
anyways, that's all in the book.
Yeah, everything, it's, there's 150 stories
Holy.
in the 4 books. And
There's
is it
4
okay if
books.
can I show the books here?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay, so here's book 1. And book 1 is called
The Good.
The good.
Good.
Yes, the good.
And it's half of Canada and half of Japan.
Oh,
if
that's
you
on
look
the
at
front
detail.
there, yeah.
Okay,
and how
the
many
visual.
stories would be in that book? And that obviously
Okay,
starts
and
from
this
the
one I
beginning.
think is about 39 stories or something like that are in this
And
book.
that starts at the beginning. And
Yes, it starts from going the very first story and just every detail about my life.
So you gave us a teaser then
Yeah.
of some of the ups and the downs, so to speak, at the beginning.
That was kind of the ups, basically. But book 1 and book 2. So the good is book 1.
Okay.
So instead of chapters, you have individual stories in your books.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Which is very cool.
Most books say chapters, and there's actually a bookstore in Fredericton called Chapters, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a newly author, and that's a help support this guy. And I called mine stories because, listen to this, they're true stories about this guy here.
Yeah.
Talking about my life. And if you look at the back of the book, there's a picture of me, but that's the younger version.
That's the old Terry.
That's a younger version of Terry in Japan, because Terry right here, I'm 50 years old.
I know.
Well, that's, yes, we'll be turning
Yikes.
50 later this year.
It
So,
says one Canadian's unbelievable journey through Japan.
Wow.
That's the back of the first book. Okay.
now go over just a few of the titles, the story titles that you have in the table of contents
Okay.
there, just to give people an idea. And
Okay,
because
okay.
we have only 50 minutes, so it's
Oh,
hard to get
okay,
139
so it does
stories.
go by
Kinda
quickly.
give some of the titles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, okay.
examples.
Let's see here. Well, I'm going to tell this story here. Story number 13.
Okay.
It says, the chance encounter that changed everything. And that's where I was just talking about the student that I met at the school, ended up marrying. And look at this. Here I have a small, tiny phone that I purchased in Japan in 1998. Take a look at that
Wow.
little guy.
It's a vintage.
And this phone here in chapter 13 is where...
My daughters might call it an antique, but
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it would be an antique, yeah. Yeah, I bought it in 1998. And this phone here is the phone that called my, I'll call her ex-wife now, but I called my provincial wife, whatever, in the stories. And I talked to her, and she slid her number to me during an English lesson. It was a private lesson. And then I just went off the grammar. And I said, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? She said, oh, nothing much, and stuff like that. And I said, oh, me neither, and that. And then I said, so what are you going to do with your husband? Because I thought she was married because she looks like a lady. She says, no, I'm single. And then I said, so am I.
So was this was an adult class, like a
Well, yeah, they teach from children to seniors, basically. But this is a private lesson with that student.
who was an adult?
It was an adult.
Okay, all right. I need
Okay,
to
so
ask the question.
I guess you have to be careful what you say.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do.
We
You
just
do.
want to
Okay,
clarify.
thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of new at the English, speaking English 24 hours a day now. 'Cause
Yeah.
in Japan, I only spoke it when I taught English and stuff, so this is quite cool.
Okay.
So that's
Yes.
that's the book called The Good. That's
The
the
Good.
first volume.
Yep.
Of the 38 or so stories. And
Yep,
then now we
39.
move into the next one.
Okay.
And this one is called The Bad.
Okay.
But it's actually called The Bad, but book 1 and book 2 are actually kind of happy stories of my life in Japan with my family, starting my own English school, married, raising children. I raised 3 children. I had an adopted daughter.
Okay.
I raised her just like as my own and that.
Yeah.
And I even got a story in book 2 where I built a huge, huge igloo.
Made of snow or
Made of snow, of
Oh,
course,
wow.
because in Hokkaido they get lots of powder snow and
Okay,
it's lots of
right.
snow.
Yeah.
And I built this huge igloo, and I would love for you to read that story. And it's just fabulous because everyone couldn't believe it in Japan. The neighborhoods are like, oh, and the neighbors and I like, oh my gosh, like look how big that is. It's
Yeah.
not like a fort; it's like a big, huge house. And we actually ended up. I put furniture into it, and my actual wife. She brought out an electric grill, frying pan, and we cooked food in the igloo and listened to music because we had electricity in the igloo.
Wow.
And that's one of the
That's one
stories,
of the
in
stories.
book 2.
Okay.
And then now talk about the cover of that book too, because that's different from the first book. Which is amazing.
I made an error when putting this cover on this book because the reason I put this cover on this book was I wanted to tell about the earthquake.
Okay.
March
Oh, yes.
11th. I was there for that huge, huge earthquake. And this was trying to describe like the waves and that because you've probably seen that.
Tsunamis and things.
And that's actually, the story's actually in book 3, but
Okay.
I didn't want to change things
Yeah.
in that. But,
Well, it's
No,
great.
so
but
It's
that-
color.
that's why. And then book 3 is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Okay.
Yes.
So we know where that quote came from, and it's okay to use it because it's just each book is called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. It's not all in one book, so
Right.
it's did it properly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, and this book here gets really, really interesting. It has 4 stories in it that I told you that they're going to be unbelievable stories, but all the stories that I tell are true stories. And these 4 stories happened at this coffee shop in Sapporo. And a guy approached me, and it wasn't the typical greeting, hey, why did you come to Japan? Or how long have you been in Japan? He goes, we already know everything about you, Terry, and we want to know, do you want to do this assignment?
So it feels a little clandestine.
So
feels a little bit.
at first I thought it was a guy trying to help me build my school or help promote my school because I was running an English school.
And everything was going good. Like you had
Yeah,
your family, you had the
I
kids.
was doing so. Yeah, in book 1 and book 2, we used to go like travel all over the place because we're making a lot of money with the school and stuff like that. It's so popular. It started off as a house school, then quickly grew and got bigger and bigger. And then I had to go to a building, and it was
Like
just
how
so
many
cool.
how many students? What was your capacity at one time in your own school? Like
Well, actually, I had about 3 schools and stuff.
Okay.
So I was there for business and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just knew to make money over in Japan because I could make money. I was kind of smart how to do it and that. So I just kind of
So you had a lot of students at one
basically had a
time.
lot of students. So I was raised the
teachers.
family successfully in that. And I actually got to a point where I was actually only working Monday to Thursday. I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Yeah.
Good. Yep.
Great for
Wow.
so,
And I would start from the morning until night. And I was busy, and had other teachers working there as well. I ran 3 schools.
awesome.
So it's interesting. So you have the first 2 books, and that sets the stage. Everything going great, happy. The school, the business is going, and then we go to book 3.
Yeah.
And that's where we had a turning of events.
Yeah.
The pivotal time where we get into the more of the ugly. So talk now about this coffee
And
shop.
what year?
meeting.
What year
Yeah,
would
what
that
year-
set that?
Good point, yeah.
Around what?
Okay, I was there for
roughly.
25. Okay, so those kind of early shady stories would probably about the maybe 15-year mark or whatever.
Okay,
kind of,
okay.
and stuff
After
like
about
that.
15 years.
And the
then.
thing is, no one knew about the stories until I came out with them in the book.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't tell anyone because I couldn't.
Because
I couldn't.
what do you
basically.
want to say?
Okay, yeah. So how come you couldn't tell them? Just because you were living in Japan and it was
And,
dangerous?
well, just
or?
maybe family.
The
Yeah,
type
yeah.
of work you were doing, you mean? What you got caught into, or type of work you were doing, or what?
The type of work I was doing. And when you read the stories, you're going to be like, that's almost impossible. But it's true.
Okay, so
And
let's
there-
get
and then-
into this coffee.
Yeah,
coffee
let's go back to
shop
coffee
meeting,
shop.
and
So he
said
comes in.
He knew all about
and he
you,
knew
this
your
fella.
name, Terry, and everything.
Oh, you want to go into detail about that?
Well, just
because I
because
want
that's-
to go into a little bit later in the book. if you
Okay,
don't mind.
whatever you
Sure.
want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. What's
Oh, okay, because near the last about 8 chapters of this book here, I met my first Yakuza.
what is that?
Yakuza is Japanese. It means for mafia.
Oh,
Okay.
And it was funny because my wife, she told me, oh, we got a new demo lesson. It was kind of in the evening time. And I said, okay. And I said, sure, I bring them in. And she said, Yakuza. And I understood what Yakuza meant because I could speak fluent later on in Japan, basically. And I taught the student. And basically, at first, I knew he wasn't there to learn English and stuff. But he was just came into the school. And we made like a little friendship. And his first opportunity for me was, he says, I would like you to drive a car from point A to point B, and the pay is good. It'll only take you about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I said, how much is the pay? And like 20 minutes, he said about $100, whatever. So I don't know, I'll do like 20 minutes, $100. I said, sure, I'll do it. So when I got to the destination to pick up, it was a truck, and it was old vintage, like it was like, and I put in the book, it was almost like taped together with duct tape. It was barely moving. And I asked what was in the back, what was I transferring, and he just says, you don't need to know and stuff. So the ride didn't take 20 minutes. It actually took about 45. And then I got to the final destination. I dropped off the cart, and then I had to walk about 1 kilometer down the road where my boss picked me up, handed me an envelope. And in Japan, too, the way they show money is they always pass money in an envelope. You'll never ever pass money directly to someone.
Right.
Like, Japan's very big on respect, very big on respect. So they'll put money in an envelope. So I got it. Wow, cool. And he goes, hey, let's go partying and stuff afterwards. So we went to the nightlife, and I became doing stuff with them. And then I stopped being with the school, and I started working only for the Yakuza, and I was living in an apartment rented by the Yakuza. I just had to pay the utilities.
So, were you still married to your wife at that point, or are you separated?
Well, I was separated,
okay.
But separation in Japan is different than in Canada. Like you're not allowed to date anyone and stuff like that, but I did and stuff. But
so,
secretly.
Not to interrupt too much on your story. So, is there a connection with the being involved with the starting out with the mafia and then the fella in the coffee shop?
No connection at all.
No
It has
connection.
nothing, nothing to do with it at all.
Okay, because I thought the coffee shop meeting was sort of the turning point where things started to get more adventurous.
No, it just finds me in strange ways, basically.
Okay. So now let's actually we're going to take a little break.
Yeah.
But very, very fascinating to hear about in the third book about the mafia and then where that's all going to lead, because you're saying that there's some unbelievable true stories. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
And the people watching, if you don't know Terry, you're going to be fascinated. But if you know Terry from school, when we went to middle school and high school, elementary school, all of our friends and old friends and people, you're going to be really blown away and fascinated by this. So stay tuned and come right back.
Hi there, welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. We're on Facebook, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, on your favorite podcaster, and on CHCO TV, based out of St. Andrews, broadcasted all over New Brunswick. Anywhere where you have cable, you have access to CHCO plus online as well. So thanks very much for joining us. I'm Jack.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody.
Yes.
And we're now back, returning to talk to our guest, Terry Evans. And he's sharing with us his 4-part book series, 4 books, Under the Rising Sun, and it's one Canadian's unbelievable journey through Japan. And Terry graduated from high school here locally, middle school in Oromocto, Fredericton, and spent 25 years in Japan, and the stories are literally unbelievable. And we're hearing from Terry about these books and about some of these stories. And you were telling us how you got there. Now you got caught into the mafia, or at least maybe not caught, but you agreed to be part of it.
Yeah, it was a student that you were a owner of a English school in Japan, 3 of them, and then one of your students was in the mafia. You were telling us in the first segment, and that's how you get introduced to the Japanese mafia.
He offered me an opportunity, and I took it.
Yep.
And then I was in the mafia for a few years. And it was one of the best times of my life over there, because they are so wealthy, and their nightlife entertainment are girls' bars and stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about Fredericton, but I'm not sure how many bars are in Fredericton, but I could probably count on both my hands, meaning maybe less than 10 maybe. But where I lived in Sapporo, I'm not sure about how many, but at least over 1,000 bars and stuff like that. So it was so crazy wherever you wanted to drink alcohol, you could drink alcohol. Then also in Japan, listen to this, you could go into a convenience store, buy a beer, and go outside, crack it open, start drinking your beer outside in public. It's not illegal to drink alcohol in public in Japan. And the very first year I was in Japan, I cracked open a beer and I was with a police officer. I had my picture taken with a police officer drinking beer.
Send it back home.
And they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And yeah, it's kind of.
So you met the mafia guy while in school, but you were still with your wife at the time. But then you got involved more with the mafia. What types of things did you start doing, and how did that affect your
So the first job
marriage?
you were telling us was about delivering a car.
That was
like
the very
45
first job.
minutes.
And then the second position I went to, because they knew I was a black belt in Taekwondo and karate, and they knew I could fight and stuff. And they gave me this Japanese looking jacket. I will not wear it in Canada, but I have it. It's got 2 dragons on the side, and it's red and black. It's got dragons on the back. They wanted me to wear that because they wanted me to be the leader. They're called chimpura, and it's like a gang, not mafia, but the gangs.
Okay.
So they wanted me to see how I could be boss of the gangs and stuff. So having the gang see like a foreigner that could speak Japanese and be a little bit crazy and wild and that, they're like, oh my gosh. So I did that for a little bit for the next position of the job. Then I moved from there very quickly to bodyguard.
Wow.
Or no. Next job was a driver.
Okay.
I was a driver. And then bodyguard. Yeah, I had to drive around a lot in that too.
Through all of this, you were getting paid to do it, or side pay, or just opportunities to meet people? Or
it was basically I was getting paid to survive, and rent was free. I wasn't rich or nothing like that, but
you were giving less attention to your business, your school.
Well, actually, at that point, I think I stopped working at the school. I actually had another teacher working there at that time, because I was full time into the Yakuza.
And because you were fascinated by it, whatever.
It was amazing.
And then what? You were secretly doing this when you were married, and then that marriage broke off because of this
Well, it's just over separation.
This secret life, or
well, no, it had nothing to do with it. I'll make a long story about my marriage. I loved her so much. My ex-wife, she's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lady. She takes care of her children, a nice mother. But the big problem was she took control right from the get-go. And I start telling stories like that, maybe the end of book 2, book 3.
Do you think she was scared that you might get involved with the mafia?
No, she had no idea. No, she had to have control of everything. So if you read the stories, even when I used to take out the trash in the morning,
so
my ex-wife didn't want me to speak Japanese to anybody.
Okay.
And everyone that took out trash early in the morning was like old, like grandmothers, grandfathers,
you're
stuff
a
like that.
social person.
And I'd like to say at least hello or something like that, but she always wanted me not to talk to anyone because my Japanese was very broken at the time. And I actually didn't really learn Japanese until I actually got separated.
Okay.
And I had to speak Japanese all the time, but I knew how I could understand it, and then it just quickly came to it, and then I could speak it and stuff. But she didn't want me to speak Japanese in front of the children. She didn't want to speak Japanese at all. So I was speaking kind of English at home and at the school, and living in Japan, I wasn't speaking Japanese. So it was weird. Okay. She had a total control over me. Just over time, it just got to me. And then I just said, I got to divorce this lady. And then that's when that started. And I even lived in my school for a little while before getting my own apartment.
Right.
And then I met a Chinese girl, and I've dated a few women after that, and had a good time over in Japan, basically.
Between that and the mafia and running jobs and.
Tell us some of these unbelievable stories, and I'm assuming that a lot of them are connected with you being in the Japanese mafia. Talk some about those, like some of these stories that we don't know if we'll be believed, but they're true.
Are you serious? You want to go in?
Well, just a little highlight.
Let's ask the people at home.
Okay. And then also, I haven't told anyone yet to purchase my books. You have to go onto Amazon. You go onto your phone, Amazon app, and all you do is in the search bar is type in 25 years under the rising sun, it will pop up. You click onto the link there, and all 4 of my books will pop up. I've got soft cover, hardcover, and ebooks, all for you, the readers. And that's so hopefully you could help support this new author in that. So
yeah. And when did it first?
I've been doing this for about a month now. They've been almost a little bit less than a month. I've had the books out.
Fairly new, right off the press.
Yeah,
and you're
fairly
hearing it. You're pretty first, right on the Carr brothers.
Yeah, and
Searching that, Jack?
but there's one story in here. I want to find it. Like an early morning invitation meeting the Yakuza bosses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Now we're getting into
And
the
see, the
juicy
thing
stuff.
is, listen to this. I had an awesome opportunity because I could speak Japanese. Plus, I guess you could say I could fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I was black belt in 2 martial arts. So that really helped me out with this opportunity with the Yakuza. And my boss that got me, the student boss, I talk about him a lot. And he picked me up at 4:00 a.m. and he told me about it. I'm going to pick you up at 4 a.m. and I'm going to bring you to karaoke. And you're going to meet the big bosses. And this is your chance to shine.
Sounds pretty normal at first.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
keep going.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is just a story in that. And then as soon as I got there, all eyes turned on to me, and they wanted me to sing a song. So my very first karaoke song was "It's My Life" by Bon Jovi. And I rocked it, man. I rocked it so hard. And then during the song, my big boss that I talk about a lot, his bodyguard at that time where I took over his position, he came up to me and he whispered into my ear, he goes, if you're ever, of course speaking Japanese, if you're ever in trouble, just call me up and I'll be there within minutes to help you out with anything.
So that's the interview process. It's
And
the
I'm
karaoke.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, to help me in that. And I just met all of these guys in that. And everyone just loved me because I could speak Japanese. I could use a lot of humor and stuff like that, make them laugh. I was like a motivator and entertainer and stuff. And I just made the bosses happy, and the language helped out.
So it sounds like you were getting kind of a rush from that type of
Lifestyle
attention,
or that-
lifestyle
yeah.
kind of.
It was an
knowledge.
awesome couple of years. It was. And I started a bar where the Yakuza paid for the bar. And then listen, the name of the bar, and that story's in the book too. My name is Terry, and it was called Terry's Man Cave.
Okay.
It's got a ring to it.
Yeah, and I designed the bar all myself. I put up like posters from the like 80s, 90s movie posters and like pictures of myself. And in Japan, you could take your smartphone. I'm not sure if you can do it in Canada, so maybe you could tell me. This is many, many, many years ago. In Japan, you could take your phone, go to a convenience store, go to a printer in the convenience store, sync your phone with the printer, and then you could print out pictures.
Yeah.
Can you do that in Canada now?
We used to be able to, but I think
I can
those
do it at
shops
home.
are even gone.
Oh wow!
I can do it at
So
Walmart.
that's old school.
I can
okay.
do it at home, but I don't want to admit to anything. That
Okay.
might...
So like, but everything. So I never ever had to have a printer because I could print out everything from a convenience store. Basically.
Okay.
So
Right.
it was really cool.
Yeah, well,
And
there
then-
was never any of that in the convenience stores, but I think at like you used to be able to go into Walmart and
Shoppers.
Or
Shoppers
Staples
and
or
stuff.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
for
Oh,
sure.
That's true too. Yeah.
But you had better access than just Staples or.
But
you
no,
could
it's
go-
like it was
It
everywhere.
was a thing that
Right.
people could do at convenience
that-
stores.
Okay, so what else do we have that's
I know.
happened during the mafia years?
Yeah,
Some of
tell
these
us about that.
unbelievable stories.
Okay, and there's an awesome story in there where I was dating this girl on a dating app, and it was my first time. She was a Filipina, Filipina girl, and the first time I met her in Tokyo because my boss said I was going. Do you know any friends? I said, yeah, I got a girl there. Blah blah blah. We met up, and we went drinking. And listen, and remember you can drink out in public. So we went to the liquor store and bought a cheap version of champagne, and then the Yakuza boss bought like a super super expensive champagne. And then we wear blindfolds and we're drinking, trying to test which is which and that. We're having so much fun, like drunk out in public. It's crazy over there. And I ended up splitting up with my boss. But I was going around with the girl and going club to club and club, just living the crazy life because I was in the Yakuza. I was a tough guy. And I ended up getting into a fight into a restaurant with about 10 guys. And my Filipina girl was there. And she was even scrapping one of the guys too. It got so crazy. The police showed up and all that stuff. And also, this is another story. that's in the book, and I looked like a very famous K1 fighter. That's like the UFC is like a world thing, but KFC is like a fighting thing in Japan mainly. And I looked like his twin. That's kind of funny. And people used to ask me for my autograph. Hey, are you blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yes, and stuff like, because I just love the attention. And I was saying, I was fighting, do you know who you're talking to? You know who you're going to try to arrest? I'm blah, blah, blah. And they let me go. But it came to a point after the fight with these 10 regular guys, I got into a fight with 3 Yakuza guys just leaving the place. And that was crazy. And I just knew how to fight. And I ended up, the police came up to me and said, you're no longer allowed to come back to this city or this area in Tokyo. It wasn't a city, like a suburb area.
Yeah.
Because I was a bad guy. So it was a couple of days later, I was with my boss. We were riding a train, and we drove by that city I wasn't allowed to go into. So the train stops. I moved outside, and then my Yakuza boss took my picture. I was like, yeah, because I was in the area where I wasn't supposed to be.
Okay.
Right.
Then I went back on the train, then we took off.
So this is obviously a dangerous lifestyle.
It was
You've been in
very,
fights.
very dangerous. It was crazy.
Tell
I was
us,
a bodyguard.
well, tell us some of these, maybe some close call of death, maybe some danger. Like there must be some of these adventurous sort of.
I'm not sure if you could see this shirt here that I'm wearing.
Kind of. Yep. We
Yeah.
can. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
See it on the screen now.
That's me.
Looks like Tom Cruise.
Okay, this is my profile picture for the Yakuza,
Okay, for the mafia.
Okay.
for the mafia.
And you're
the
you're
pistol.
holding a gun.
Yeah, and I'm holding a gun, and that's a real
Sunglasses.
gun.
Okay. So
And all this bad stuff happened in Japan. I haven't done any bad stuff in
were
Canada.
you shot at though? Were you shot at?
Oh yeah, and I did some shooting, but I never said that I just said I shot at people. I didn't go into details or anything just because.
No,
Yeah.
Don't incriminate
No,
yourself.
no,
right on that.
exactly.
But you had some
Exactly.
dangerous
Situations.
encounters and situations.
yeah.
I'm sure there's what's some of your more dangerous type adventure. Type,
And then
what's
in
going-
book 4 and that as well, and if you look at the cover here, is like, the geisha is kind of saying goodbye to me. And I don't know, it's just a wonderful life, but kind of the danger Yakuza stories also continue in book 4. And they continue. And then book 4 again, when I moved back to Canada, I think in 2018. And then 3 months later, I moved back to Japan to help out my family. I'm not sure if I said that actually. I said I got a phone call from my son when I was working at Schulten's.
Right.
And he's like, Dad, can you come back and that? Can you come back? But I just moved back to Canada, and then my ex-wife, she was crying and stuff. And, for the family, I love my children and stuff. And I still love my ex-wife.
Yeah,
I have children with her. It's just we had our differences and stuff, and it's too bad. And I ended up moving back, and my ex-wife paid for the plane ticket and stuff. And then I was staying at a business hotel for a little while, and then I got my own place and stuff, and started my life back again. But this is during COVID, where we're always wearing masks, and plus I knew where the Yakuza were because they were in the same city.
Yeah.
So it's a very dangerous thing because I was kind of running away from the Yakuza.
Yeah, I wanted to know you were able to get out.
And I just knew where they hung out and stuff. And plus, we were wearing masks and stuff. So no one could tell who was who, basically, back then.
And during all this time, your ex-wife and your ex-wife,
And she knew about the Yakuza at that time as well.
she did know by that time.
Yeah,
okay.
because I think I told you the very last day
yes.
of our divorce, I said, do you want to go for a coffee? She said, yeah, sure. And then I said, yeah, I wasn't in the Yakuza. She goes, I kind of thought so and stuff. And then actually, I ended up telling my daughter, I still communicate with my daughter, and that we talk on the phone, and then we go on camera and stuff. And I told her about the Yakuza, and that, she's not too happy about that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, let's get into more
some
of that.
your couple, like
Well,
what's
before
some of
we-
your unbelievable
Before
stories?
we move on to those really unbelievable stories and wrap up in our third segment about your journey since you've been home, your book writing, tracking down a publisher, we'll get into all that when we come back. Thank you for watching. We're going to go to a few public service announcements that CHCO entertains us with. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Carr Brothers Show. It's episode 143. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jody. Thank you for joining us, and we're so happy that Terry Evans,
Yes.
an old high school friend from Ormukto, Fredericton, spent 25 years in Japan, has lived to tell about it, and has written about it in 4 books. And he's back living here.
Wow.
And people just, this is unbelievable. Jack?
Yeah, well, Terry, what we've talked about how you started, you went over to Japan, saw an ad in the newspaper, an opportunity, a job, you went over there, end up meeting your wife, who's now your ex-wife, you have a few kids, still in Japan, and then you got into the mafia, the Japanese mafia, and then what people had saw the value in you was your black belt in karate and taekwondo, and that gets us into these unbelievable stories that you have, and we're going to talk.
Had a bar,
Yeah,
operated
owned
a
a
bar.
bar.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Yeah.
Terry's
And
Man Cave.
We're gonna
Yeah, that's right.
we're gonna get into how you got out of that life and what brought you back to Canada. But tell us a couple of some of your significant, unbelievable stories. That's in which book it's in. What story
well,
number?
I'm gonna get off the Yakuza a bit because I don't want the whole podcast just to be about Yakuza and stuff like that. Because
Boring.
Yeah, no, I want to know.
because I did go back in 2019 actually.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just before COVID.
Yeah, because I came back in 2018 and I stayed for 3 months. It was after my divorce, I think in September, the divorce. And then I moved back to Canada in near the end of September. I got a job at Schulten's.
Yep.
Right.
Got
And
called.
then I was working there for a few months. And then in December, I got the phone call from my son and then passed to my wife, said, Tara, I want you to move back and stuff. So I ended up moving back to help out the family in that. And then, so here's going to be a couple other different stories in that. I moved back to Canada during COVID, and COVID was a crazy, crazy, crazy story over there. But I want to tell you, the way the Japanese society, how they work over there is myself and my girlfriend at the time, we both had COVID. And in Japan, they would send each person, I think, 4 boxes of food and drinks and supplies to survive, meaning you do not have to leave the house.
Okay.
Because COVID, because you know you weren't really allowed to leave the house.
Okay.
So it was myself, I had about 4 boxes, and then my ex-girlfriend we had about 8 boxes among the two of us. And we had a lot. We had a cat and that. And yeah, it was just an amazing service that Japan did for the citizens of Japan. What did they do in Canada? Like,
Didn't really do
just
that, but neighbors helping
persecuted you.
neighbors. But
Yeah,
let's get back
mostly.
to what you did.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your story.
okay.
Let's go back to your story.
Okay. So I wanted to get into another story too. Is when I moved back to Japan, and that I was still running from the Yakuza, but I was wearing a mask and stuff, and I had to leave my cat Boku. In Canada.
Okay.
Because Japan is a rabies-free country, and my cat was only here for 3 months in Canada, but he was in Canada, which has rabies or something like that. So it took a year to get tests and stuff like that done. So I let my cat stay at an old high school friend. I'm not sure if you know Cindy Gallant.
Yes.
Yeah.
She took care of Boku for a year.
Okay.
And then 2020, during COVID, I actually came back to Canada to pick up Boku.
Okay.
And to bring him back to Japan.
Yeah,
Because you had to get a lot of blood tests and all that stuff.
Right.
But,
Clearance.
But my cat, he passed away in 2024, and I was so sad and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
sad. But you have a big tattoo. That's
yeah,
great.
he's
Wow.
a Maine Coon cat. I loved him to death. But I have another Maine Coon cat called Sora.
Oh, good.
Sora. And Sora means sky in Japanese.
Okay.
So where my cat Boku is up in heaven, Sola means sky. So I'm looking
connection.
up to
Connection.
Boku.
Yeah. Okay.
And that, so yeah. Okay, so I'll get into the stories with the book here. This was a tough time. This is my final time moving back to Canada. And the story is called The 8-Box Odyssey. Because I told you I came back with 8 suitcases.
Right.
And then listen to this. Since I was doing an international flight, I had a very big weight limit. And one of my suitcases was very light. So listen to this.
Okay.
I had a 12-kilogram kettlebell that I had bought in Japan from
For
Amazon
weightlifting.
for just keep myself in shape because I lived in a small apartment. I couldn't put a bench or nothing like that. So I did so many exercises with a kettlebell and to stay in shape. And I put the kettlebell in a suitcase. and I sent it across, and it was still under the limit of the weight limit. So I sent a kettlebell.
Okay, is that one of the stories? Or?
And that was actually into the story here, the 8-Box Odyssey. But this was during COVID, so it was so difficult to send 8 boxes of goods because I had to write down everything inside, write a weight limit, write how much it was valued at, and so many different steps where I had to go back and forth to the post office to send it back.
Did you get captured at all?
And it took forever, and there's so many things I couldn't send and all that stuff, but it was so crazy. But eventually I sent all the 8 boxes and stuff. So when I lived with Heidi Alexander, I got to pick them up in Canada, and I had to pay taxes
on all that.
And I already sent the money to send the boxes, and I had to pay taxes in Canada. That wasn't very good.
Welcome back to Canada.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Yes.
And then also,
welcome tax.
And also in book 4,
welcome tax.
And also in book 4, I have an amazing story.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's story 149, and it's called Beneath Sapporo Stars, Our Last Goodbye. And this is the phone, again, I said earlier, where I called up my wife, now ex-wife. And we had a lovely, amazing relationship together. And then she called me up as I was moving back, getting ready to move back to Canada. She called me. I saw her name on the phone. I didn't want to answer it because we're finished. We're divorced and stuff. I had nothing to do. But I felt sorry for her, so I picked it up, and she was like, hey, I want to hang out one last time and stuff like that. I said, no, I can't. I'm so busy packing. And then she talked me into it because her voice was so soft. She's a lovely lady. But
and you're so strong-willed, but in that moment, you just weren't able to.
We can do.
And I was so tired, and then she picked me up and took me for a drive, and I fell asleep in the car. And then she woke me up, and listen to this. It was a night view of Sapporo, of one of the first, not the first time, but one of the first times. And it was a perfect view of the city, gorgeous, beautiful city, the lights, so many lights, a lot bigger than Fredericton. And it was just so romantic, and she was trying to patch things up. And then later on in the story, she asked me the question, do you really have to go?
Oh, boy.
It was like our last chance.
Yeah. What were you thinking then at that moment?
And then, because I was finishing packing, I said, yeah, sorry, I have to. And that because my mother had passed away. I knew that. And I was going back because I thought the house was going to be sold and a lot of work stuff. And that. I thought I had to help with that.
So did she try to kiss you? Did she try to make it into like one final get-together? Or?
No, we just kind of looked at each other. And it was just the age difference, but we're still so madly in love.
But you were pretty well committed to moving.
I was committed to moving back to Canada. This was the final goodbye. And now I'm back in Canada now. And I've been here 2 years now, and I'm still having a hard time.
I bet.
And I'm driving around with GPS on my car and that. I'm still like that old school style. But I'm trying to get used to Canada, and the food is so different. I'm sorry, I love food in Japan. Everything is so much better in Japan. Sorry, Canada, and that. But if you read the stories, I talk about ramen stories, and restaurant stories, and also restaurants. They have these amazing displays. You know how you have a menu where you can see a picture of the image of the food. In Japan, at the entrance of the restaurant, they have these displays where it's a 3-dimensional version of the food. Like even if it's a pouring beer, it looks like it's being poured into a glass. And it just looks so delicious. So I'll just say, oh, I want this. I want that. So it's amazing.
Well, with the sort of the few minutes that we have left, I know time just goes by so quick. Terry Evans, high school friend of Jody and I's, and spent 25 years in Japan, and then now the last 2 years back here in New Brunswick. What are some of your overall reflections of 25 years? You have 4 books. From your experience, what's your reflection? What have you sort of learned? What are you taking away from it for your next, because you're 50, Jody and I will be 50 later this year, but what are you taking from all of this for your next chapter, couple chapters of your life that you have left?
Well, that's a great question. As I said, I'm really trying to make this my new career, and I believe in it.
Yeah.
Because the way I write my books, believe it or not, I write so detailed information where you, the reader, will feel like you are 100% in Japan. That's how well I write. And I know I'm bragging, but I've went over these stories 1,000 times, and they are amazing. I'm trying to promote my stories for you, the reader, to read and appreciate. And if you go onto Amazon, again, if you type in 25 years under the rising sun, you'll see 4 of my books pop up. I would help for your support to support this local author and a new author. But I feel it's my strength to do this now, because when I first moved back to Canada, I got a job. I'm not going to say where I worked at, but it was a hard physical labor job where I was using my body. I want to use my brain in that. And what I got from Japan is respect. It's so different in Canada. I don't think Canadians, respect each other the way they should respect each other. And I miss that. And I don't feel that from many people in Canada in that. But I just, hopefully you can help support this guy here. And they are amazing stories. And I want to update you guys here.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
I've written 4 books already. They're published. Softcover, hardcover, ebook. Yesterday morning, I finished book 7.
Well, that was going to be my question. Do you have more books on the go?
So 5, 6, and 7 you have.
Yeah.
So
and
5,
my
6,
goal
and 7.
this year is 10 this year.
Really?
And I already know what I kind of do in 10. But the only thing is stopping me is, that authors are always broke. And I guess I'm saying I'm broke, but I'm broke as everyone else is in Canada. And that, but it costs money to do this.
Right.
And I'm not saying, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm being stingy as everything is. I spend money only on food and my books and my bills, of course. You got to pay the bills and my cat and stuff.
So 5.
I don't eat out. I cook food. I have an air fryer. I cook.
Right.
I don't waste money, basically.
So
the
book
more
5, 6, and 7 are not published yet. They're
pending.
ready to go.
No. Like I just finished book 7, so they're all on my computer right now. I haven't sent them to my publisher yet.
Okay.
So you got
So you got them in the hopper.
So I got 4 books now,
and then sales to come in.
And then with books, whatever, like, and I just found this out. It's not you get paid every month. You get paid every 3 months. And that. So I know I'm actually between jobs right now, so I'm taking full advantage, because when I was working at my last job, whatever, I went on break because I think I had depression from when my cat passed away, and then being back in Canada, it had like a mental thing on me, and I needed help because I had no family and stuff. And I got my best friends and stuff like that. Sorry, best friends.
But you're overwhelmed.
But everyone's married and have children. They have their own lives and stuff like that. So I'm basically at home all the time. So I'm just taking full advantage of writing, because I didn't realize I could write. And then also, why did I write my books?
Yeah.
We didn't even ask that.
Well, let's get into that for a
Okay,
couple minutes.
yeah. The reason why I wrote these books, because I didn't know I was an author. I didn't know I could write. When I moved back to Canada, and when I was at work, I would tell people stories about my life in Japan, because everyone, like, wow, everyone's from Ormoc or Fredericton. Like, that's kind of cool to know someone that lived in Japan for 25 years. If I lived there 3 or 5, 7 years, like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and you didn't just live there, you lived there.
Yeah.
But a quarter of a century, that's like, oh my goodness, that's a long time. And then listen to this. Even when I moved back to Canada in 2023, listen to this, I'm Canadian, I was still living longer. I was living in Canada. I was still living longer in Japan than I was in Canada. And I was living back in Canada as a Canadian again.
Yeah. So you lived
But now I've been living longer in Canada now, because I've been back 2 years. But that's crazy and stuff.
It is.
But there was a reason behind all that.
And the reason behind that is because a lot of the coworkers were saying, man, your stories are so crazy and interesting. You should write a book. And then when I went on leave from my job, I was getting paid from being on leave.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to write a book. I was just talking about writing a book, and I read an outline of 20 stories and stuff like that, and then I wrote those 20.
Well, it's part.
And then I could write more.
It's part therapeutic as well, though.
And then also these stories here, I would send to Heidi Alexander, and she's living in Ontario right now. And then she says, your stories are really awesome, but they need more detail. And I said, okay, gotcha.
That's pretty good honest feedback.
Well, yeah. And then I went into so much detail. As I said, it feels like you, the reader, are in Japan with me as I write. And the restaurants, man, you're going to be like, oh my God, this sounds so delicious. And also another thing, not about me, Tokyo Ramen in Fredericton just opened up again.
Okay.
It went back. The main
that.
cook, he had an injury. He had to go back to Japan to get operated on. And now he's back, and I'm promoting the restaurant, Tokyo, Japan. But I want to promote my books here and stuff.
So what's the feedback from the readers? What are they saying
initially?
So far?
Well,
Getting any reviews?
Well, I just seen so far. I'm not trying to get into it too much right now because it's only been a month. But I've seen like 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, but not so many written reviews.
Okay.
So what I want to recommend is if you do purchase this book off of Amazon, please, if you could give a lovely review after each book. Yeah. You don't have to wait until all 4 are done. After each book, you just give a lovely review because every little bit helps out this guy here. Again, I would love to make this my career using your brain than the the strength and that like that because I believe I can do it. And as I just told you, I have 3 more books are ready to be produced, but I don't have the funds to do it.
Right.
But I do need the funds to help out this guy here.
If we could get some books sold for Terry Evans here, and that would carry him on to the next chapter of his next 3 books.
And next story.
Yeah,
the next stories. Yes.
That's amazing. Well, that's quite fascinating, guys. Like, I had no idea you had such an interesting friend from back in middle and high school.
We didn't
You know
either.
what? We leave high school and middle school, and we go on our journeys throughout, and I bet you there are more people from your classes and my classes that have gone on to do amazing things. We just haven't heard about it. So for you to put that in print for everybody to enjoy is quite something.
And
But these are kind of different kind of amazing things. And
Yes.
stuff. Then also, I wonder if before we run out of time or whatever, I was wondering if I could boost my TikTok.
Yes, sure.
I have a TikTok.
Right.
If you're on TikTok, go to Beast Mode Baby Japan.
Beast Mode Baby Japan.
Beast Mode Baby Japan.
And that's your TikTok.
And that's my TikTok. And then the last many stories are me promoting my books and stuff like that. But the beginning, I'm a very positive person. And I got my name Beast Mode Terry from working at my job because during stretch time at 3 o'clock, it was just boring doing stretches. So I just started I had a microphone and stuff. And I started to do motivation speeches every day. And then I would tell about 3 or 4 jokes. And that, so that, and also my email is also beastmodebabyjapan@gmail.com.
Okay.
All right.
Beastmodebabyjapan@gmail.com.
Jack, take us to the...
Thank you very much, Terry Evans. You've got 25 years under the rising sun, your experience in Japan, and not only 1 book, not only 2, not only 3, but you have 4. And not only that, you have volumes 5, 6, and 7 in the hopper as well to produce. Terry, thank you so much. You live here in the Fredericton region. Hopefully we'll get to see you some more, and we'll hear some more things from you, hopefully in the next coming weeks and months. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. This was a pleasure.
And it's an honor that you kept the trophy from 1988.
Grade 8 badminton champion.
Wow.
It's an honor, though, that you had defeated Jack and Jody Carr. And you've kept that out of all your travels, from all your stuff.
And the phone.
And the phone. It's cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.